The movie begins with a man named Watson, who has been into hiding for so many years and was finally caught by Madolyn Harris, a United States Marshal, and some policemen. Watson pleads with Madolyn that he wants to make a deal. Madolyn then tells Watson if he wants to make a deal, he should testify against a notorious killer whose name is Moretti in court. Watson agrees but tells Madolyn he wants full immunity and a lot's protection. Madolyn and Watson sets off for the journey with pilots Daryl Boot. Daryl Boot asks Madolyn why is Watson on chains. He thought she said he is a witness. Madolyn answers and tells him because he is a flight's risk. Booth then asks what did Watson do? Madolyn ignores the question. Booth tries to check if there is a signal, but there is none. Madolyn then asks if there is a GPS. He says no, and this often happens twice a week. Madolyn is concerned that if there is no GPS, how would he be able to get to the right destination? He replies, "Don't worry, 75 minutes from now we will be landing." After some while, Watson notices an ID card under the pilot's seat which was owned by the real Daryl Boot, and he tries to tell Madolyn the danger, but she seemed not to understand the situation. Madolyn later notices a red blood stain on Booth's shirt and tries to play smart on him by asking him questions. She then realizes that he isn't the real pilot. Madolyn and Booth got into an intense fight. Booth brings out a knife telling her to calm down. She then bites Booth's hand and Booth knocks her out immediately. Booth later tries to put a rope around Madolyn's neck in her unconscious state, but she wakes up and uses a teaser to electrocute Booth. He later wakes up and tries to strangle Madolyn, but she somehow managed to electrocute him again. And while doing that, the plane was about crashing before Madolyn pulled up the plane steady. Madolyn and Watson later ties Booth up and handcuffs him. Madolyn finds a way to contact for help and finds a satellite phone in which she uses to make contact with her lady boss. Her boss then asks her the situation, and she says the pilot was compromised and the pilot was one of Moretti men. The lady boss later helps Madolyn with a pilot through a phone call, and he directs her on how to fly the plane. Booth later sees a knife under the pilot's seat but wasn't close to him. He later got the opportunity to get the knife as the plane almost crashed into the mountains, but it didn't happen again as Madolyn somehow took control of the situation. He tries to get the knife to his hand but didn't work out, so he hid the knife. Booth plays mind game with Madolyn and remembers her past. She then gets upset and continuously punches Booth on the face, and Booth somehow again takes her eyeglass. Madolyn and Watson kept on conversing as Booth uses the sharp edge of his eyeglass to cut the rope used to tie him. After a long ride, they see a coast and they are happy. Madolyn then contacts the pilot helping her, and he directs her again. While rejoicing, Booth comes out of nowhere and stabs Watson. He then tries to strangle Madolyn. He then stabs Watson again and tries to strangle Madolyn to death. Somehow Watson helps cut the rope he was using to strangle her. Madolyn tries to regain her stance, but Booth shoots at her and he misses. She hides behind a pilot's seat and she gets a flare gun and fires at him. While he was in shock, Madolyn hits him with a fire extinguisher and extinguishes the flare. She then goes to check on Watson's condition and injects him and tells him he was going to be fine. She handcuffs Booth this time under the passenger seat. She calls the pilot and tells him of the situation, and then she asks how many more hours before landing, and he says 18 to 20 minutes, and she says no, it's too late because of Watson's situation. He then tells her it might be early too, but it will burn the remaining fuel quicker and landing will be difficult. She replies she doesn't have a choice, she doesn't want to lose Watson. The pilot then tells him what to do. Sooner Madolyn sees a runway and is ready to land. While about to land, Booth somehow painfully gets off the handcuff and attacks Madolyn again, but this time he shoots him on the both of his legs. She is about to land the flight and is escorted by some police cars and ambulance cars. The plane looses on of its tires and then the wings, but Madolyn keeps her head up. The flight doors opens with the plane still swinging on the ground. With Booth not been able to hold tight, he falls in the plane and is hit by an incoming ambulance and crushed to death. Madolyn and Watson are still safe after the crash landing, and he is immediately rushed for treatment. While Watson was in the ambulance, Madolyn notices a man who she wasn't familiar with entered the ambulance, and she immediately rushed and opened the ambulance doors only for her to see the man trying to suffocate Watson. She then shoots him. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe for more.